It was a warm Saturday morning in June when I first noticed something different about my son, Mason. He was 13, teetering on the edge between childhood and those difficult teenage years. Ever since his mother passed away 2 years ago, things had shifted between us. He became quieter, less eager to talk, and started bottling things up inside. I did everything I could to keep things going, making breakfast, helping with homework, coaching his little league games, but I could tell something inside him was struggling. That morning, I found him in the garage, staring blankly at an old photo of his mom. She was holding Mason when he was just a baby, laughing in the summer sun. I didn't say anything at first. I just watched from the doorway. Mason had always been sensitive, thoughtful. He used to ask questions about everything, from how stars were born to why leaves turned colors in the fall. But lately, it seemed like life had pressed down hard on him, and he couldn't ask anymore. "You okay, buddy?" I asked softly. He didn't answer, but he didn't look away either. I stepped inside and put a hand on his shoulder. He flinched just a little, not from fear, but from whatever storm was brewing inside him. "Sometimes," he finally said, "I think she'd still be here if I hadn't asked her to come to my game." His words hit me in the chest like a sledgehammer. I knew what he was referring to. The car accident happened on the way to one of his baseball games. I had never told him the details because I didn't want to burden him with guilt. But here he was, carrying it anyway. "Mason," I said, kneeling down so we were eye to eye. "It wasn't your fault. Not even a little. Your mom loved coming to your games. That's what she lived for." His eyes welled up, but he nodded and turned away. I didn't push him. I knew we'd have to take it one day at a time. Over the next few weeks, I noticed him acting out in school. Nothing extreme, but enough that I started getting calls from teachers. He forgot his assignments, snapped at classmates, and once got into a shoving match during gym. When I asked him about it, he shrugged and said it didn't matter. One night, after a particularly rough day, I found him sitting outside on the porch, wrapped in a hoodie, staring at the stars. "Can I sit?" I asked. He nodded, and I joined him. We sat in silence for a long time. Then he spoke, so quietly I almost didn't hear. "I miss her every day. But I feel like I'm supposed to be over it already." I turned to him. "Who told you that?" "No one," he said. "Just, everyone seems to have moved on." I reached over and pulled him into a side hug. Grief doesn't have a timeline. And if anyone makes you feel like you should be over it, they don't understand what it means to love someone. He leaned against me, and for the first time in a long while, I felt him let go of something heavy. Summer came and went, and things slowly began to improve. I enrolled Mason in a writing workshop that fall. He'd always liked stories, even when he didn't like speaking them out loud. To my surprise, he poured himself into it. One evening, he brought me a notebook and asked if I wanted to read something he wrote. It was a letter to his mom. Reading it brought tears to my eyes. It was raw, honest, and filled with the kind of vulnerability that most adults struggle to express. I hugged him tight that night and told him how proud I was. He didn't say much, but he smiled, and that was enough. But progress isn't a straight line. A few months later, I got a call from the school counselor. Mason had been found crying alone in the library. They said he seemed overwhelmed, and when they asked him what was wrong, he said, "I'm tired of being strong." I rushed to the school immediately. When I found him, he looked broken, like the weight of everything had finally become too much. I wrapped my arms around him and held him for a long time. "I'm here, Mason," I whispered. "Always." On the drive home, we didn't talk much. But I could see the questions in his eyes. About life, about pain, about whether or not things ever get easier. I didn't have all the answers. But I had something better. I had time. And I had love. Later that night, after dinner, we sat in his room. He was curled up on the bed, his head resting on his pillow. I sat on the floor, my back against the wall. "You don't have to be strong all the time," I told him. "Not for me. Not for anyone." He didn't respond right away. Then he said, "I'm scared sometimes." "So am I admitted. "It's okay to be scared." There was a long pause. Then, in the quiet, I whispered, "Take it easy, son. You don't have to carry this alone." He looked at me. "Do you ever miss her so much it hurts to breathe?" "Every single day," I said. That night, he fell asleep faster than he had in weeks. And I stayed there watching him, making a silent promise that I would always be there. No matter how long it took, no matter how hard it got. As the year passed, we made it a ritual. Every Sunday morning, we'd take a walk to the park, grab 2 cups of hot chocolate from a local stand, and talk. Sometimes we talked about school, other times about music, or dreams, or nothing at all. But the most important thing was, we were together. One Sunday, Mason turned to me as we walked under the falling leaves and said, "I'm glad you never gave up on me." "I never could," I replied. "You're my son." He grinned, then added, "I think I want to help other kids someday. Maybe become a counselor or something." I smiled. "You'd be great at that." Time went on. Mason grew taller, stronger, more confident. He joined the debate team, started volunteering, and even got a part-time job at the library. Every time I looked at him, I saw pieces of his mom. Her eyes, her compassion, her spirit. But I also saw someone becoming his own person. On the night of his high school graduation, I stood in the crowd, holding back tears. When his name was called, I clapped louder than anyone. He looked over, caught my eye, and smiled. After the ceremony, we walked together in the parking lot. He was quiet, his cap dangling from his fingers. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah," he said. "Just thinking about her. She would have loved this." I nodded. "She's here, Mason. Always." He looked at me, then reached out and hugged me. "Thanks for everything, Dad." I whispered again. "Take it easy, son." And for the first time in a long time, I felt like we were both finally learning how to breathe again.